The only reason I asked, because I knew some of those seniors I teach, something like you said, as soon as they hear that word work keys, I already took this, I don't need, you know, so.
Well, relevance too, I mean, it might not be bad to show the little clip to that class and show how this correlates. Every one of those seniors is probably gonna get some kind of part-time job or
Right.
full-time job.
Talking about the video we watched here.
Yes, all of this stuff is relevant to what happens for future employment.
Mm-hmm.
You may take an aptitude test right before you get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's about life.
Right.
You make the money or not.
Well, don't some of the industries in our area require?
Exactly.
I was
Right.
right.
I think
That's
we-
what I
yeah.
was gonna
If they
suggest.
would apply,
If
they
you
don't
did a
have to
corridor
take
of
it
show where we
anyway.
Right.
talked to some of those spots, like Michelin, for instance,
Yeah, I
that will
think
take
that would
this. I
help.
mean, there are places that require it, and then if they go to an employment agency, they ask them to take it, so
We-
it's not.
Well, not even employment, but heck, if they wanna go drive, you gotta take a test. So, I mean, there's things in life that you gotta take a test for that doesn't not always school related, so, yeah.
I think they need to know what the work keys is all about, because I sat in an Avid class just observing, and they were handing out certificates, and they didn't know what they were getting and what it meant, and like how they can take that too, like you said, Michelin and stuff like that, and that's entrance, like you can't go in the building and get a job without having that score. So if they knew the tie-in to afterwards, because so many times they take these benchmark tests and whether they do well or not doesn't matter, but this one really does for a lot of our kids.
Yeah.
I mean, we have easy buy-in, because this is, our students aren't getting a high school diploma, but they can use this test in lieu of a high school diploma in some places. Of course, I wouldn't want to tell students who are going for a high school diploma that, but it's that important. I mean, our kids get that, and, they're still gonna struggle with it, but this will be great for them. I think the buy-in could come from seeing some of these places in the community that require it, or that you can get a promotion based on it. I mean, there's a lot of realistic tie-in.
Dr. Newt, do you know of any, like, specific examples, Bosch, Ryobi, or anybody?
All of them.
All of them,
And
everybody.
Michelin does not take anyone under a silver, and that's very few of their jobs. So you've got, and they start people in the $13 to $18 range. I have many first-year teachers that don't make what you can make straight out of our high schools at any of the advanced manufacturers here. And the other thing that we finally learned, and is really research-based, is that having a future-ready or a career-ready preparation is more difficult to have than to have a college preparation. I know that comes hard to those of us who are academically successful, especially educators who live, ate, breathe SAT preparation and advanced placement and English and Shakespeare. But pick up a technical manual. Have your car, whether it's a Volkswagen, a Kia, a BMW, work time, and the technical manual be much more difficult than I can understand. Now, I know I have a little bit of minimal, but that stuff is extremely valuable to our kids. We had a kid at the Career Center this last summer. He's actually one of your students who had been in an accident, helping someone change a tire on the side of the road. And he got back, he'd been homeless too. He got back to the Career Center, he got involved in automotive. By spring, he had finished 9 certifications, which were all tests exactly like this on the computer. And he got a job at BMW up in Greenville, straight out of high school.
Can we interview these kids and let our kids see
Why
them?
don't we do, like video production, we do hype video every Friday night. Why can't we do a hype video for this and interview Bosch and some of these things and talk about
I
the
can get you hooked up with all the people. They are ribbing at me all the time to get them some workers. We need at least 450 welders today in Anderson County.
Rubio talked about that last night. Need more welders and less philosophers.
Yep, that's true. No more PhDs for me. I'm gonna go get me a job welding. I would have been a good welder. I'm very detailed, like to make things. You know, to be honest, my daughter's an engineer. And when she was going through school, my husband and I both were, of course, obsessed with her because, you know, old people having a young child. And he looked at her, and she wanted to major in math. And she's good in math, really good, calculus too, you know, she'd do it. And he looked at her and said, no, you've gotta be able to have a skill that you can get a job at. You don't need to be like your mama and I, who have to live on the government job, you know, so we're really proud of that. And I think our students are now seeing that regardless of whether they're going to college, tech school, or work, this is important. I'd love for all of you to take the test if you want to. We can set that up for you. And it'll be free to you, and you can get your little card, you know, platinum. Believe me, locating information. And I think I'm good at locating information. Here was my issue. If I have a map on the table and I have a subway chart, it does get into things that in Anderson we're not used to, like how to access the subway. And so culturally, our kids have some trouble with the locating information. And you would, I mean, or I did. I did live in Atlanta one time, right, Lamar once, but if I had it on my table, I would have been fine. But on the computer, Mr. Roberts, I don't know if this happened to you, you had to flip to the different screens. Well, we only had one screen, and I'm used to working off 2 or 3. So if I could have put those all there, I could have gotten it done quicker. So I didn't finish locating information. So it's quite interesting to go do it yourself.
And things like we're showing them, like underlining parts, they won't be able to do that on this because it's on computer, right?
It is
Well,
computer.
sometimes, well,
Yeah.
VOC and stuff, you can underline, you can highlight.
You can,
you
but
do
it's
stuff.
no.
Okay.
No.
They took this last year, this was on paper, are we switching to electronic?
Yeah, now the kids did it on paper last year, right?
Yeah.
Here.
I would think paper would be a lot easier.
I
I'm
didn't
old
see
school,
it on
though.
paper, but
Especially
the
when
locating
kids do
information
that.
would have been.
I like to be able to write.
So is it gonna be paper?
If
think
you
that-
take it, it's computers, what I have access to.
I don't think it's finalized yet because of some technical problems that we've had this year.
We still don't know. They told us November 9th. What's today, the 11th? Oh, we don't know. It
It's
didn't
just
happen
so
on the 9th.
helpful, that's what we teach them in English, is to mark the text.
I know.
It's an avid structure too, but I mean, we teach them to mark the text, so it's just frustrating if they can't mark it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think these are some great ideas that have been thrown out. We'll definitely see if we can get some.
Yeah.
Some
I
examples from the
commend you
community.
for taking your time. I know how valuable teacher time is. And Curtis, great job. Mr. Roberts, thank you for inviting me. And I want to come more often. So if I do anything, oh yeah, it's so hot out there now. We start off with
Yeah, it's so
We
hot.
finally saw
Like,
that
push the button over here, you know.
Yeah. He touched the button.
Y'all take care. I've got to run back from me.
All right, so I think that's pretty much everything that I want to cover as far as that. If you have questions in the coming weeks about that, we'll send out more information about the specifics of when we're going to roll it out, how we'll roll it out. Mr. Roberts, you have some stuff you
Yeah, I
want?
just quickly, it's kind of been said already, just want to reiterate that the department chairs, two in here, Ms. King Hanley, Mr. Smith, we've been talking about this for a while and going back and forth, so I don't want you again to think we talked about it on Friday and we tried to push down on Monday. A lot of thought has been taken, and I was a part of the process, took myself out of the process sometimes because I can ask a lot of questions and slow us down, but when I actually saw the finished version, it was better than what was in my head. So again, I appreciate that. The other thing is, and I see it on the board there, is one of the things we needed to start was make teachers a part of the process. Well, we did. We made teachers a part of the process and things that we're trying to do, and this just come from the top down. Listening to all of the teachers and team meetings, we're even better than we started this morning because we got more input from the faculty staff about how to make this process better. And the other thing about the ownership, we do have to own it, and we're going to work on some things to make sure our students kind of own it. And I said this a couple of times today. I went to Westside, graduated in '87. My parents taught here. I was not the kind of child who just loved learning. I figured out the system and figured out what to do to keep my parents off my back. I didn't come out here trying to learn, trying to read all the material. That came a little bit later on in life. So I think we have a lot of students like me who figured out the system, but we need to do a good job of helping them understand it. The other thing about when we roll this out, I understand that part about one more thing on your plate. I mean, once a teacher, always a teacher. And just like I don't like the DO, the state, or anybody else to put one more thing on my plate. So we tried to make it as painless as possible by just pressing play and helping us work through this process. But it's how you kind of sell it to your students. If you sell it as, oh, this is one more thing, and I don't care, just if I need to come into your classroom and draw you a big smiley face to put on your whiteboard, but your kids, well, they're going to feed off of what you do. If you're smiling about it, they might smile about it. You know, so again, we have to do those things. And I think the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, the intentional path we're trying to do with students. You know, I worked in elementary schools for a long time and had some very bright kids. Something happened to them by the time they got to high school. I don't know. Something happened in middle school. Stuff happened. So we really do have to be intentional on what path we lay for kids. And again, I've said my mother's a retired English teacher, and I feel sorry, I really do, even my kids sometimes, for all the teacher kids. Because we come with all these bright ideas for your kids. And your kids really don't, trust me, I was a teacher's kid. They really don't want to know. When I call my mother and say, Mama, look, I'm working on this paper, I'm working on this speech, what word do I need to put in there, does it sound right? Instead of telling me what the answer is, she wants to take me through the whole process of the rules and all of that. And really, I didn't want to know all of those things. So, trust me, I didn't. So all of those things are very important. But helping our students be intentional on what they need to do. I told you at 4 or 5 years old, I knew what the word procrastinate was, could spell it, because that's how my mother talked to me. She didn't really say, Corey, you do this and do that, or with my other brothers either. And the other thing about making choices, it was one of my favorite poems by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. You know, and it's just about, and again, that was probably like 9 to 10, but it's about making choices. And you know, a lot of my friends went down this path that was an easy path. Everybody went down that path, but she kind of encouraged in her way to say, you got to go on this path. And she didn't tell me to go that path. She led me to that path, that this is the path that a lot of people don't like to go on. This is the path that's going to be some trouble along the way. On this path, you're going to have to work a little bit harder. So even in your own individual classrooms, you have to have those conversations, just like you have them with your own kids, about kind of leading them to the path that we need them to take, because kids are going to be like me. I was finding the easiest way. Again, my parents worked here, my guidance counselor, who I've known since middle school, I did my own schedule every year. It's amazing to me. It's just like, I mean, I took what I wanted to the guidance counselor, and they did it. It was not around any kind of academic rigor. It was where my friends were. My dad a couple of times put me in a class, and I was like, ooh, no, I'm not taking that. Go to the counselor, this is my schedule, this is what I want. It's no different. You know, so our kids are very bright, but sometimes they really just don't want to work. They want to find that easy way, and it's up to us to encourage them. It'll be a little bit harder sometimes, but years from now it'll pay off. And just like this stuff, this work keys, I took the test. Man, if our kids have to do this and they can help them, we better be helping them get prepared for this, because it's a different world out there for them now. They can't just go, you know, like 20 years ago, go to Rowley and get a job. There's some other things that we have to help them get ready for. Okay, so I appreciate everything. They've done a great job doing it. Coach Teague and I mean, we've been talking about this probably for 5 or 6 weeks now, and we're finally to the point where we can roll it out. So I want you to know all of the time, conversation, and detail that's going into this process. And we're going to work hard to bring it to the students to their level. I like to look some kind of video, get students involved, so they'll take a little bit of ownership. Will all of them take ownership? Of course not. But will we be able to give them some confidence, so once they actually see the test, sometimes it's just in your mind that I think I'm prepared and I can do a little bit better. So I appreciate everybody, getting on